It's a critical time for Bitcoin right now because we are looking at a $97,000 BTC right here at current prices, and we've pretty much gotten a pretty important rejection right here at $100,000. Obviously, our next key level is going to be down here at about 90. Let me show this to you on the proper chart right here. And what I think is really, really important to keep in mind for this next price move is that we've basically, when we enter a sideways range, we typically get a midpoint that's actually pretty important in the market. And in this case, it's really important in the market. It sits at about 95.7, and it's, you can see a lot of interactions happening along this price level and a lot of support right now. But the problem that we're faced with is if we really zoom into what happened earlier today, Bitcoin pretty much, it tried to break through that resistance right here, and it couldn't, right? It topped out at 100K, and now we're basically looking at, more or less attempt number 4 at 95.7K support, which is a midpoint, right? And that's the first thing I told you about in the beginning of this video, because one of the things I need you to understand about midpoints in trends like this is that they're not the strongest levels of support. Typically you will expect one bounce or rejection off them. You might even expect 2 bounces or rejections off them, but you're not going to expect it to hold for 3 or 4 or even 5 attacks at the support level. And that's kind of where the problem is right now, because it's kind of like the only thing that bulls have going for them right now, because ever since this all-time high at about $108,000, Bitcoin has just kind of slowly been trending downwards, right? And so we're on the hourly time frame, and it kind of takes up the entire chart. If we take a look at this on the 4-hour time frame, our momentum still agrees with what I'm saying, and it's been giving some pretty nasty resistance to Bitcoin right here. So, we're definitely trending down, and, if you're a bull, you really want to see this level hold, because you don't want to be fucking around down in the bottom of this range. You actually want to be trying to break this resistance level. So I don't really know how well that's going to be working. Now, we kind of know why this is happening. It's, partially to do with the S&P 500, which, opened really well. When the S&P 500's trading session today opened, it was pretty good. It was like right here where it opened. So it kind of went up by a little bit on the open, which was admittedly a little bit surprising. The whole reason that this market is dealing with any of this drama today is basically because Trump has announced retaliatory tariffs, basically. That's probably, just one reason. I'm sure there's many, many reasons, and ultimately you and I understand that none of these reasons matter because we are technical analysts, okay? We don't worry about what the news is saying because the news is heavily, heavily manipulated. But these numbers, while they are manipulated, we can do something about it. We can kind of read it. What we can see is throughout the course of this trading session, the S&P 500 did drop down by a fair bit, and I think that's probably exactly why Bitcoin is down as well. I actually don't think that it's anything more complex than that at all. So, for now, it's really just about, if you're really being, quite realistic about this chart, it's really just about seeing Bitcoin get back up to this $100,000 resistance level, right? Like, if we can kind of challenge this resistance level in any meaningful way, then the bulls are going to be, having a good time. But if we can't, we're probably looking at collapsing below this level. And, every time that we've collapsed below this level, look, there are a couple of exceptions here. But, for the most part, when we collapse below this level, we're actually coming all the way back down to the bottom, yeah, all the way. And this has happened so many times. And this is actually, as traders, this is what we look for. These are what I call low liquidity zones, and basically it was exactly what it sounds like. There's not much liquidity in these areas, and then you get high liquidity zones. And oh fuck me, I wasn't showing the chart, was I? I don't know how much of this I showed, but yeah, every time we fell below this dotted yellow line, we fell down in this gap, which I'm calling the low liquidity zone. Now, the low liquidity zone ends when you enter a high liquidity zone, okay? And a high liquidity zone is another word for a reversal zone, yeah? Typically, we call them the same thing. So, this is where we've seen a lot of reversals happening. The initial uptrend, in fact, the initial all-time high pretty much topped out right here and consolidated right here. So, kind of a big deal just from price history, in that point of view. But we've also triggered, rallies to all-time highs off this level, yeah? So multiple times, actually. I guess this is kind of the same thing. But, this is important. If you trigger a big rally, and importantly, there's 2 key factors to any rally, yeah? Number 1, the factor is how high does it go? And number 2, the factor is how long does it go in terms of time? That's why you've got the y-axis, right, and the x-axis. And the more of both, the more significant it is. Yeah. So you can get a really, really sharp reaction, but it maybe doesn't last that long and you kind of come back down. That's fine. But maybe you get a sharp reaction and actually you don't really reset down for quite a while, right? That would be more powerful. That would tell you a little bit more about how strong this level of support is. So if we bring it back to what we're seeing right here, we've got a level that not only triggered intense price action, yeah? So in terms of a short space of time, 8 days, we're up by about 14%. It's okay, yeah? It's nothing crazy, but it's okay. On this occasion, it's a little bit more extreme, 20 hours, and we're up by 11%, right? So you're seeing, not only you're seeing, relatively, significant rallies coming off this level, including, of course, a rally to the all-time high. You're also seeing, look, it takes 21 days, basically, right? And actually, to get back down to this level, it's more like a whole 23-day thing. So, it definitely, actually it's a little bit less than that, isn't it? Look at this. It's more like 14, but it's definitely standing that test and it qualifies. Yeah. I mean, there was an awfully long-winded way of saying that this is a high liquidity zone, but now, thanks to me, you also know how to spot them. All right. So hopefully one of the goals of this YouTube channel, because I really am such a shit businessman, apparently, is that you get so fucking good at what you're doing that you don't need this YouTube channel anymore. Like, truly, I don't need to watch anybody on YouTube, obviously. I don't need to look at anybody on Twitter, obviously. But most winning traders are like that. Most winning traders truly don't need to be paying attention to what anybody else is saying. And in fact, they don't want to, because it's bad for them. It's actually going to throw their decision making off. So, that's kind of the place that you want to get to. I know many people don't like that idea because, oh my God, it means more work. But, we're not going to be worried about that on this YouTube channel. We're actually okay with a little bit of work if it means that we get to become millionaires and multimillionaires and so on. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty fair trade, but low liquidity zone. So this is obviously going to be that zone of support. And, below this, obviously, there's nothing. So it gets pretty shit. We'd have to drop by another kind of $20,000 until we hit the next major zone of support. So, we'll just have to see how that goes. I can't really say what would happen. But I'll tell you what, this zone right here and this zone right here, both of them, whether it's Bitcoin or a shit coin, is going to be so, so beautiful to trade. And the best place to trade it is, of course, going to be Bybit, linked in the description down below. It's the best exchange in the game. Absolutely no doubt. And when you start trading using the link in the description below, you are going to get up to 30K in free cash. Okay. And the thing with this is that you get to trade it any way you like. You get to do anything you want with it. And if there are profits made from this 30K, that's going to be yours to keep. Yeah. So you get access to that when you deposit and start trading. And Blowfin is a phenomenal alternative as well. So check them both out if you are curious, and always be mindful of your country's local laws and regulations. Because Ghost down, because down. Because the law is important, right? Obviously, we all want to be law-abiding citizens. But back to the video. That's kind of this initial drop. Now, let me tell you about what's more interesting to me. It's what this potentially means for altcoins. We kind of already saw a taste of it, where Bitcoin's dominance really fucking spiked up a couple of days ago. It's also spiked up just today, and it's pulled back a little bit. So, we're going to continue to watch this and see how this plays out. But I think that this is also particularly interesting as far as showing us that Bitcoin's dominance is looking strong. Bitcoin's dominance is looking to surpass previous highs. And of course, Bitcoin's dominance has nothing stopping it from getting up to 70%. So, it's really quite an impressive chart. It definitely lines up with any bearish theses that people might have. Overall, I know people are going to be curious, and God, it's been like 10 minutes and I haven't even told you what my bias is, so probably people are panicking. But pretty straightforward. I'm still bullish. Obviously, it's how can I not be bullish? It's a really bullish chart. Sure, intraday, very short term, 1 hour time frame. Yeah, obviously it looks a little bit shit right now, but if we zoom out onto the daily and, let me just go ahead and kind of remove a couple of things here. These daily candles are shit. Yeah, these are really bad daily candles. And, because we just finished one of them, we've just, we've got another one. They're really not good daily candles here. But, it's still range bound, right? So, to me, this is not really super different from this. I'm sorry, I'm drawing in the wrong place, from this or even this, and especially from this. Yeah, and each of these were not really that significant, or this, right? It's actually not different. The only difference is that you think it's different because it's happening right now. But you also, you would have felt quite shit at other points as well. There is some, there are some factors that make this unique. First of all, obviously we kind of got above 100 and these are quite nasty wicks. So this is uniquely shit for a couple of reasons. But again, it's still range bound. And so like, you can lose your mind over it. No one's stopping you. But, you can also just be completely chill about it and recognize that, resistance is at the top and support is at the bottom. And as long as you click buy and you click sell at the right levels, overall, you're going to have a good time, especially if you're inside of an uptrend. So you focus on the buys and you kind of fade the sells. That's going to work even better for you, right? Because if you're looking at what works best in an uptrend, it's not selling because the trend is up. It's actually buying, yeah? So if you look at buying, pretty much ever since we flipped this level, it has never failed as support. There was one wick right here, and another deviation, another wick right here, but that was it. Ghost Laney. And so that kind of settles that. But let's just take a look at this deviation quickly. Yeah, that's like a 1%. So like I wouldn't really even call that a deviation, to be honest there. But yeah, pretty healthy chart there. I think overall it's looking pretty good overall. And I think that, if we are able to kind of come down here, I would be expecting at least a bounce. And, obviously the next target from there would be 100. Like, I know that people want to hear a little bit more doom and gloom about this chart, right? Especially the possibility of breaking 90, but you're not going to get that out of me, right? Like, I've known that there is a risk of 90 breaking, and I know where Bitcoin is probably going to go if it breaks 90. But beyond that, until it's broken, I'm not in the business of saying it's going to be broken. If I was doing that, I would have been wrong on every single one of these instances before, right? So, we're just trying to keep it super level-headed and realistic. There's what your emotions want you to do, and then there is just an objective, stone-cold reality of the market, and you know where you're going to find me. Again, short term, like I said, it obviously looks like it's going to be breaking down, and if we really zoom in, there are a couple of interesting points around here. We can probably throw a fixed range volume profile to visualize this a little bit, and we'll probably see that, yeah, there's a little bit of a spike kind of like right here where Bitcoin is approaching. So, this zone about, what is this, 97.3 could be a problem. Obviously, we've got the point of control up here. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot more I can say about this because, like, to me, it just, yeah, like, I'm more kind of focusing on the fact that we're just, hopelessly, bouncing off this support level, hoping that something happens, basically, and nothing is really happening with that. So, that's interesting. Now, if we take it over to the altcoin charts a little bit more, we've got Trump right here. It swept its low. It's now reversing back up. These look like short positions to me. Ethereum against Bitcoin has... I mean, look at this, by the way. I mean, from the low that it set up until it set a high, it took 3 days and 5 hours. And then, to reset down to the same level, it took just a day and a half, So you're really doing like 3 steps up and 2 steps back kind of thing, like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back with altcoins at best, right? I mean, this is a downtrend. So it's actually, more like, I don't know, 10 steps down and then, 5 steps back up kind of thing. So, whatever. I don't think it looks great. I think that altcoins overall do not look fantastic as well. So, it's just something that I'm generally going to be kind of keeping an eye out for to kind of see how this continues to develop. Laney, how this continues to develop. Other coins, that are less interesting are all just kind of, they're just kind of following the same general thing. There's really not much unique price action across crypto. Tron remains somewhat unique. But there's not a whole lot that's particularly unique right now. And actually, I think one of the best things that, I've certainly seen traders doing is literally just kind of browsing the Bybit Markets tab. And, you'll kind of see. And by the way, those of you that are interested in becoming a VIP member on Bybit, if you become a VIP member using my link, you can get the Bybit debit card and you can spend it anywhere in the world. So that's really, really cool. But, honestly, like one of the best things I've seen people doing right now in this market is literally just, you get on, right here onto the derivative section and just literally look at what's dumping, right? Or like what's pumping. And then you can kind of, like Vine has been, super, super easy to short. And that's just like free money just falling out, just everywhere. It's absolutely crazy. And then obviously, some of the biggest gainers, these could be interesting for shorts, right? Because we're just not in, a super, I don't know, healthy market, to be honest. It's really kind of a market that's kind of on its knees. And so any strength, I wouldn't necessarily be expecting it to kind of stick around. Let's just take a look at one random one that I found right here. This looks like such a massively manipulated chart. But look at this right here. Like it found resistance at a previous zone of support. It's coming back down. And by the way, there's free money up for grabs on these platforms, right? So like you can trade this shit without even putting your money in. It's really, really cool. Again, only if you're not from a restricted region and only if you've made your deposit and started to trade. But, if we kind of take a look at this zone right here, like this is either, like, honestly, this is obviously like the most important zone on this chart right now. And by the way, if you're wondering why I picked this one, it's literally just because it has volume. It's got 181 million compared to 83 or 21 or 10 or whatever. So it's not in the billions, but, it's firmly in the hundreds of millions, which is, a starting point. And, this is obviously a very, very important level, right? I mean, one can argue that if the price was below this level, you would be fucked, or at least not in a good position. But if you're above this level, that actually, you've overcome a pretty important resistance area. So, that's two really easy trades. That's a long right now with a stop loss below this level, maybe like around here. But it's also a short, right? Like if the price kind of falls below it, comes up for that kiss of death, that becomes the easiest short position of your life. And it's already happened. Look at this kiss of death right here again. And again, these ones would have been less successful. But if you did it the first time, let's put this in perspective, by the way, down to that low, that's a 37% move. I mean, if you traded this with like 3x leverage even, like that's like just that is a 60% profit. 10k becomes 16 and you can just fuck off and go back home. It's actually quite beautiful how easy it's been to make money in these markets recently. That's just kind of one of them, right? Like it's already kind of dumping, right? So for me, if I was kind of interested in going short, I would actually consider probably, something. I mean, this is like kind of degen, right? So it's not necessarily a trade type that I would take, but obviously everybody wants to know how to make money when the markets are dropping. And those of you living in free countries, you're kind of, you're pretty good to use, platforms that are like Bybit. And I mean, look at that. That's like, to be fair, that's like 13% risk. So that's like 2x at most. But, I'm making like 30% if it just drops down to this level or whatever. And this position gets a lot more interesting if, we're doing something a little bit like this. Because then my stop loss can actually be a lot tighter, right? And all of a sudden I'm actually making way more money, for the same kind of targets. So honestly, like there's a lot right now. And that's kind of what I've been seeing. The meta changes, right? Like meta is a big thing in these markets. Like what's the meta right now? What's working? What's not working? What's working the best? What's your edge, in the market kind of thing. And like it keeps on changing. It's not, it's not really feasible to say that it is X or it is Y because it's always different. But right now this is what it looks like to me, and just knowing that alone, to be honest, is really enough to kind of make some profits in the market sometimes. So there you go. Definitely a video with a slightly different focus, perhaps a little bit more intimately focused on trading, but that's brilliant. I'm very, very happy with that. Let me know what you guys think about this video with the comment section below. Obviously, if you want to get any of the bonuses, just make sure that you have started to deposit and trade, because that's going to be how you trigger it. If you want to reach out to me directly for our beautiful one-to-one offer, then click on either this link or this link in the description down below, and you will be speaking to a member of the team, and they will send you information. It's a really, really cool package. Amazing success, literally 100% success rate. Everyone's just done incredibly well out of that program. And it's very expensive. It's very serious. Don't reach out if you're not okay with either of those things. But if you have enjoyed it and you don't really want that, then you've got great resources outside of those links. I always recommend these books in the description as well. So there you go. Hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.